So, like I said, we're going to start right away with the social media session. We're going to focus here. We're going to focus here on the role of social media marketing in Indian e-commerce and the key trends in the market. So the panel will look at the key innovations in the space and discuss the growth of this medium as an effective marketing tool. So we have wonderful speakers from all different businesses. So I'd like to introduce them now. Our first panelist is Siddharth Puri from Tyru. And as I call your name, I'd love it if you could please take your seat up on the panel. Our second panelist is Nirav Parekh from Ixala. Our third panelist, definitely a big welcome to everybody. I was going to just do it at the end. Our third panelist is Mr. Harish Mehta from Social Wavelength. And our next panelist is Sapna Raghavan, the head of media at Pinstorm. This session will be moderated by Mahesh Murthy from Seed Fund. So, ladies and gentlemen, would you now please welcome your moderator along with all the panelists.
Thank you. Hi. How are you all today? So we have like 1.5 empty rows here, and it's very depressing to sit here with empty rows. Please come up, make us feel good, and please fill these rows up. I mean, the secret agenda is people from outside look and say, oh, empty rows in front, it must be a shit session, right? So let's con them into believing it's actually a good session. Come. Yeah? So in true social media style, we are not really doing too many PowerPoints. Actually, we're not doing any at all. What we're really going to try to do in these 45 minutes is have you guys ask as many questions as possible from the panel out here. Before we start, I'm really going to ask the panel to just spend a minute just introducing themselves. That's Harish Tibrewala and not Mehta. Harish Mehta is another well-known technology entrepreneur. This is Harry Tibbs. Yeah.
Yeah, you know why they got Harish Mehta? Because my partner's name is Sanjay Mehta. Until 2 days back, they were not sure which one of us would be coming, so they just put Harish Mehta to play safe.
Yeah, Sanjay Tibrewala is being waited for in the next room somewhere.
Yeah, so I'm Harish Tibrewala from Social Wavelength. We are a social media agency with a pan-India presence. We work for more than about 50-60 brands managing their social media communications.
Hi, I'm Swapna. I head media planning and buying at Pinstorm. Yeah, I come from, a varied background of PR and Corpcom.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nirav Parekh. I head internet marketing at Ixala. We are an e-commerce services company. We provide technology, marketing, content, and fulfillment solutions. I think almost all top e-commerce companies in India are our clients.
Hi, I'm Siddharth. I run Tyru. Tyru runs a customer acquisition marketplace. We work with around 117 odd e-commerce companies in India, and we help drive customer acquisitions from them purely from performance and affiliate channels.
Cool. So we've got, my name is Mahesh, and I help found Pinstorm and run Seed Fund. So what I'm going to do is really set the stage out here. I think till a couple of years ago, SEM or buying Google AdWords was pretty much seen as the way to do customer acquisition for e-commerce companies. Something changed a couple of years ago. I think brands started discovering, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and so on and so forth. I remember sitting and talking with the founders of Flipkart maybe a year or two ago, and I said, so you got like 600,000 fans on Facebook, what you going to do with them? And the answer was, we don't know. We bought them. We don't know what to do with them, right? So I think from that, we don't know what to do with them, and we bought them. I think we've come a really long way. We've had really interesting things happen in the last year or so, especially in the last 6 to 8 months. We've had significant controversy, not just in India, but elsewhere in the world about what's happening with Facebook. It was once the great white dream of every e-commerce marketer, go out there, virally spread stuff, win customers. And today, you can't do a damn thing, it seems, on Facebook without paying them because your virality has gone through the floor. Some claim and some say no. So that's one. There's somebody else saying, well, if you want women, you've got to get Pinterest. There's somebody else saying LinkedIn is the secret. There's somebody else saying, Google Plus is waiting in the wings. Somebody else is saying, well, YouTube is the undiscovered medium. So what I'm really going to do is ask the panel out here to spend maybe a couple of minutes just broadly setting the stage on, if you were to advise this room full of entrepreneurs who are founders, I would assume, or somebody involved in e-commerce companies and decision-making roles, what are the one or two things, or maybe two or three things that you'd really tell them in terms of how to look at social media?
So two very key observations I want to share with you. When you look at a social media kind of a program, social media is not a sales tool. If you're going with a kind of a sales mindset, you want to meet next month's revenue target, you'll be better off using Tata Yellow Pages. Social media is not a sales tool. Social media is a brand advocacy tool and it's a brand loyalty tool. These are the two defining pillars of what is social media. What do I mean by brand advocacy? How can I get my existing customers to talk good things about my brand so that their friends hear about my brand? That is the first takeaway. It's a brand advocacy tool. You need to find a way to use these platforms to get your customers to talk about your brand. Second, it is a brand loyalty tool. A customer has come to me, I acquired the customer, he bought something in the month of October. When the next purchase cycle comes in the month of January or March, how can I still be in his consideration set? How can I be at the top of his mind recall? And that is a brand loyalty tool. So when you look at social media, look at it as a brand advocacy tool and a brand loyalty tool. Second observation, when you're planning a social media strategy, there is only one question you need to find a way to answer. If I have 10,000 customers, how can I get these guys to talk good things about my brand? That is the only question you need to answer. All your engagement ideas, thinking has to revolve around that. It is not paying money to Facebook and Twitter and go and find the rest of the world. If you have 10,000 customers, how can I get them to advocate my brand? Facebook, Twitter, YouTube are all platforms that allow brand advocacy to happen.
Swapna?
What I would really advise is, one, Facebook is not social media and social media is not Facebook. For a lot of people, what we've seen, when we've had clients talk to us and stuff, everyone wants to do something on Facebook, but there are a whole lot of other platforms that can be explored, that should be explored. There's a lot of niche platforms out there that people are active on, that people use regularly. And what one really needs to do is look at what it is that you are selling and then kind of marry that to, all of the platforms out there and spread your, eggs accordingly. Don't put everything in one basket is one key thing that I would say.
As Mahesh just hinted, there has been a big change in how Facebook operates. The virality has been cut down. So I think the point that I would like to make is, earlier when we used to work with social media, we thought that we'll buy out fans, and then once we have the fans on our page, then they belong to us. Facebook has proved that they don't belong to you. So there is Facebook in between you and your fans. So it's not a captive audience that you have. So that is one point that I want to make. The second is for e-commerce companies. When we are measuring performance of social media, typically what I've seen with a lot of brands is that they look at that final touch point as social media before, while measuring the performance of social media. So you should look at the whole funnel when a customer makes a purchase. So typically what we've seen is social media basically appears right at the top of the funnel. It is generally the first or the second touch point for a prospect before it becomes a customer, and generally not the last touch point. Those are the 2 points.
Yeah, so when we go out and meet a lot of e-commerce companies, and a lot of the CEOs they do not come from a marketing background. They could talk business. And just to put things in a very layman business terms perspective, I think so the way to look at, and when we talk e-commerce, we talk marketing, I think there are two distinct type of marketing spends how a CEO would really look at. And he would say that, A, what are the channels where I'm doing branding, which are decision influencers? So if you were to construct your funnel, you have your decision influencers, and then there are going to be channels which are going to be decision converters. So search is one of them, affiliate is another, and so forth. I think so the way social has evolved now, and especially the changes which Facebook has really brought in, as an individual, when looking at spending money on social, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on any of those channels, you need to be very clear and very sure what are the attributes, what are the metrics, and what is the way and what is the objective which you want to achieve. So very clearly today social gives you a distinct possibility to structure your spends out, to structure your funnel out, to go after the decision influencer from a very different objective, and which could be getting fans, it could be creating loyalty, creating assets onto these social platform, or using it as a large platform which has a lot of media available and just try to convert people using offers or creating or using the same techniques which are available on search. So clearly this is how, as an entrepreneur, as someone trying to do marketing from an e-commerce company perspective, this is the way you should look. Harish is very right. It is not only about that आपने ₹1 डाला और ₹10 कल से आना शुरू हो जाएंगे. I think so it stands true for even Google. If someone just says यार कि मैं Google के अंदर से कल से पैसे निकालना शुरू कर दूंगा, I think so he's fooling himself. So please remember this, that decision influence, or which is brand building, and decision converter are two different streams, and that's how your focus should get built out.
Great. Before we get into the next question, I do want to tell you that we've kind of, again, through social media cell, decided that you should talk more than us. What also influenced the fact is that all of us said, confessed to being very lazy out here. So out of the, whatever, remaining half an hour or so, we're going to try to dedicate only 5-10 minutes out here and 20-25 minutes to your live questions. Please have those questions ready. We'll take lots of them. We have 20 odd minutes for questions, right? So I'm just going to ask a couple of questions out here. We'll have, very quick answers. So one question, I'm an e-commerce company. Should I outsource social media? Should I do it myself? What do you think?
So if you're a startup e-commerce company, I think you're better off doing it in-house. You will not have the kind of budgets required to work with an agency and make those kind of investments. If you have reached a certain critical size, that's really where it requires significant amount of understanding, learning, ideas to come into place. So typically for a startup, my recommendation is please do social media in-house. You'll be better off. Once you reach a certain size, go to an agency.
Does anybody disagree? Okay, Swapna?
Actually, I kind of have, the opposite view on this. I would say go to an agency from the start. Establish a long-term relationship with an agency that understands you, understands your requirements, understands the market and how social media functions, and kind of go along on the journey. Because often what will happen is otherwise, you'll have done something up to a certain point, and then you'll go to an agency and say, okay, now fix it.
Yeah, so I have a mix of both their views, which is that as a business, if you're doing, and I've created some benchmark which has helped me and my clients out, is that if you have reached your business to 100 transaction a day level, it is that, and if you have reached that level, I think so, in your marketing spends, then you do require help from an external party, so an agency or an external consultant in-house. I think so, once you reach again a level of around 500 transactions a day, it is again, it's about time you need to bring that function in-house, because you go through a different kind of cycle, different churn, different kind of learnings, which will actually bring your cost down. So it's a mix of both, I guess. It's a mix of both.
So let me ask a different question. Have you all seen Facebook virality go down and Facebook pricing increase? What's your advice based on that? Any thoughts? Nirav?
Yeah.
And then Swapna?
Yeah, as I said, I said it at the start as well, that you don't own your fans. So today Facebook has done it, tomorrow Twitter might do it, day after tomorrow Pinterest might do it. So when you're investing your money in social media, you should be practical on how much you want to invest. It's not a one-time investment that you're making. Even after you acquire your fans, you need to invest a lot of money in them. I think a lot of what Facebook has done has been dictated upon it because of its very high valuations that it commanded when it listed. So I don't think so. If it had not gone for IPO, they would not have done it. But because they went for IPO, because of their merchant bankers and everyone, they landed up in this space. So, but as e-commerce companies, as businesses, what we need to think of is we should not over-rely on anything. Everyone was so ecstatic about social media, but we should be practical. There are other means of acquiring customers as well. So we should, when we're budgeting, when we're deciding on the budgets, we should be very careful on how much we are allocating to each of those channels. And we should be very clear in terms of our objectives as well, what we're expecting from each one of them.
Swapna?
Yes, virality is definitely going down. There was a big change last year in April, again in October, November last year. And if I'm looking at the numbers of the last 3 weeks, I suspect there is another change happening. We're still trying to kind of figure that out. So what happens to brands who have spent all this money and got all of these fans? They can't reach out to them anymore. Is the solution that you simply go and spend more money on Facebook to kind of now reach out to the people that you paid to, or to my mind, a better solution is to kind of have a community of people on your own website. At the end of the day, that's where you own them. That is your own media. Facebook is here today. Tomorrow somebody else will be there. how do you keep continuity with these fans then?
So that's a sobering thought. Imagine if you had 10 million fans on Orkut, you'd be dead by now. And can Facebook become an Orkut in 2 years' time? I think I personally began to see the writing on the wall for Facebook. I personally have started to see a decline in the usage kind of secularly already in the US. We're beginning to see user number go up in India, but engagement numbers significantly fall down in India. That's something.
So I had a thought on virality, So I'm not saying virality is dead. I think the tipping point has got shifted. Earlier you could get virality at early stages of the life cycle of the content. Now it needs to reach a significantly higher tipping point before it can actually viral out. And that's the kind of experience we are seeing.
That basically means you have to give them a lot of money before it goes viral. So first, inorganic money, and then they'll give you some bonus virality. Let me ask a different question. I mean, and this is around, again, more the nuts and bolts of doing social media. What do you recommend? Videos, pictures, images, text updates, what else? What are the right things? Okay, and also how many updates? If you go to Facebook, they say do only one update a week because the rest of the time we want you to pay us. If you go to some agencies, they do updates 6 times a day. So in terms of nuts and bolts mechanics, what kind of updates and what frequencies?
So I think the answer to that question more likes in terms of what are you trying to do. This whole concept of building a Facebook page and putting up updates is the wrong way of thinking of social media. Basically, what you're doing is building communities, okay? And at least our impression is don't go and try to build too many communities. Don't do a Facebook page and a LinkedIn page and a Twitter account and a Pinterest. You will not be able to do it. It's not about a page, it's building community. And building each community on whatever platform you choose requires tons of effort, lot of thinking and lot of money. So be very, very selective in terms of where you go and build the community. Having built the community, look at the kind of target audience you have to decide how many updates you should do and where you should be. If it's a fashion product, you're trying to attract women, you probably want to go and find a way of doing it on Pinterest. It works very well for them. Or maybe you find ladies have ample time on earth to keep looking at your 4 or 5 or 6 updates. So the number of updates you do, whether it's video or text, is more a manifestation of the kind of people you are talking to. And what is that kind of TG you are looking at.
Swapna, what's the experience you can share in terms of how different kinds of updates work and what's the right kind of frequency? What's your sense?
My sense is that, perhaps 3 to 4 updates a day, if we're talking Facebook especially, perhaps 3 to 4 updates a day makes sense. And the reason I say this is that, there's an increasing amount of clutter that's coming in people's newsfeed as well. More and more brands are taking up sponsored stories, plus Facebook themselves are deciding which of your, which of the pages you follow, whose updates to show you, whose updates not to show you, based on, how frequently you interact with them. So really, if you're looking at, let's say, someone who is on social media pretty much all day, which is most of our target audiences typically, having 3 or 4 updates a day gives you a good chance to at least get seen once on their news feeds. That is kind of my sense. In terms of content, pictures and videos is really the way to go. Plain vanilla status updates do not get traction anymore. Make it shareable, whatever it is that you're doing. It has to be interesting. It has to be, funny or something that makes people want to, share it with their fans and followers. If it's a simple offer kind of a update, it's going to have to be a really great offer for everyone to say, hey, I want all my friends to know about it. Otherwise, it's not going to happen.
Neerav, Sid, anything to add?
Yeah. On Swapna's point, I don't think so. There is a right number of updates that you can have. I think it's more about the kind of business that you have, the kind of audience that you have. So there might be some businesses who have audiences who like to, basically businesses like to update stuff and audience understand what the stuff is being updated and they like a lot of updates. But there might be also some businesses where I'm not too keen on too many updates. I don't have much to say about. So you should keep on posting updates when you have something to say about, and what you're saying about is liked by your fans. So I think that is the number, and there's no right number. So you need to arrive at that number. In terms of kind of updates, obviously image and video updates work well. But again, posting an update just because I want my community to share that update, I don't think so makes sense, because I've seen a lot of brand pages, very big brand pages, they're posting updates about weekends, weekend is coming, okay, Monday is such a boring day and all that kind of stuff. A lot of interesting graphics, people will share them, but what is it that you're achieving out of them? So I have a point.
Sid, anything to add? Great. So I'm going to have one more question and then start taking questions from all of you. We have a lot of time on that. So let's leave Facebook out. Okay, now I'm going to take this universe of Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Google+, everything else. Any interesting anecdotes, stories, potential, way forward that you'd like? I mean, let's see Facebook out. With everything else, what is it that you'd like to advise, tell clients? Anything of interest to this audience?
Yeah, so we work with a e-commerce client who's one of the leading ethnic Indian fashion brands, and we created a community for them. You know, this community doesn't sit on Facebook or Twitter. It's an independent URL, www.something.com, with very, very interesting content which is relevant to the person who comes to visit the platform. It's not about me, it's not about my products, it's not about my platform. And on this community, besides providing content, we're also giving, option to people who are fashion designers to come and showcase their product. So the whole idea was to do like a community building exercise, and that has worked brilliantly well. The whole community is kind of there under one umbrella, talking to each other, engaging with each other, which is beyond just having them on Facebook or Twitter. So I think the whole community building angle is something which most social media strategies are missing out. We are so Facebook and Twitter centric in our thinking.
Sid?
I think so. LinkedIn is one of the lowest rated social platform, and a couple of our clients, they have been doing it themselves, in the jewelry segment, and they have been seeing great results coming in. And one of the most interesting factor which came in, and it's an input, Facebook versus LinkedIn, and they were using both the platforms. They saw that LinkedIn gave them 30% higher cart value as compared to what Facebook did. So an interesting thing which really came out, and they've tried lower ticket value items, they've tried higher ticket value items. What they say is that the potential will LinkedIn have, and the amount of unique users they have been adding, and the kind of targeting which they give, which are more around income, right? Everyone wants to know who has the money, and especially yesterday Nagesh had a very interesting point that we people in the e-commerce world are ignoring the 40 to 55-year-old who has some disposable income available, and he is available on LinkedIn. So I think so LinkedIn as one of the platforms is quite underrated, and that has a potential to get mined now. A lot of people are not there.
Swapna, anything outside of Facebook?
Actually, to me, it should be outside of Facebook. Facebook is one sort of vehicle to get your message out there. But like Harish said, it is all about your content, and it is all about building a community. Keep it off all of these platforms. Have a community, own it, and then you can use all of the other media platforms to kind of propagate your message and do more.
Neerav?
I just had a small point to what Swapna says. I completely agree with her. I think not looking at Facebook, I think we can actually look at other non-social networks as well. So we should, I think customers, we can interact with them whenever they like. And I'm sure Google is not going to charge us.
Macha? This is not Haryana. This is still Maharashtra. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. My question is, if you're on Facebook and now with sponsored.
Question 2, or is it?
No. This to anyone.
Okay. So yeah.
If you're on Facebook, you've got now sponsored posts. Obviously, it's not feasible to pay extra money for all the sponsored, to sponsor all your posts. What should your strategy be to reach out to more people, sort of on a limited budget? Do you just select certain posts and just boost them with sponsored posts?
So what do you sponsor and what do you not sponsor? Anybody? Swapna?
What I would say is you start off by, running pretty much everything on the sponsored stories. You kind of see, and you'll have to measure it real time. You sit and watch traction, and then you put more money behind the post that's doing better. This is going to need someone who is actually sitting and watching your dashboard, continuously to see what's going on, and do that. Over a period of time, what you'll find is that certain kind of content typically tends to work better, and then you just work towards developing more of that kind of content, really.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in India, what works is the offers. So typically that has been so we're couponing. So from an e-commerce company perspective, the couponings are something which gets you that enough, and that's again the decision conversion, right? So if you're looking for, I put in X money and do I want Y return? The couponing posts typically, from even in the sponsor stories, they do tend to perform much better than others.
Different one. Yeah, you can take the mic.
Yeah, so we have very specific learning on this. So wherever the story has a call to action, that is where you should put your money. If it is just hardcore content being shared, don't put your money behind it. You want the guy to do something. Call to action post, put your money, sponsor them.
What if it's a video?
There's a call to action. You want him to do something.
The ma'am, just.
Question is, does blogging feature in any of the things that you mentioned, and how do you use it? Blogging or
How
following
would
something?
you use blogging?
And second question is, how do you do analytics on, suppose you build the community that you're talking about, what sort of analytics is carried out on such communities from
So
marketers?
we take two questions, blogging and analytics, we'll take them separately.
So in case of analytics, it's almost like having a website. It's like your own URL. And you use the same Google Analytics that you would use to see what kind of people are coming. You'll have a login ID. So people who are registering, what is their behavior and pattern, and what kind of content people are watching. So it's just like managing any other website, exactly the same kind of analytics. Except you're owning the whole community. You're not paying money to Facebook to kind of access those guys.
Anything on blogging that you'd like to add? Or? So maybe Nirav, you want to add something on blogging, and then maybe come back to you, Swapna, on analytics or blogging or...
Yeah. So as Swapna was saying earlier, that you need to build your community outside of social networks to own the community. So blogging is a fantastic platform to build a community and to own the community. I'll say the way you should incorporate blogging in your overall marketing plan is blogging will build content on your site. And if you're aware about the changes in the SEO algorithms over the last 12 months, you would be aware that blogging has become fundamentally very important to the overall marketing plan. The way we look at blogging is we try to understand what is our target audience like. We build personas out of them. So we have different personas of audience, and for each persona, we make a chart where what we do is we have personas and then we have buying stages. So whether the person is at a awareness stage, whether he's at a decision-making stage, whether he's at a transaction stage. So for each of those stages, for each of those personas, you kind of create content, and that content gets posted over your blog. So whenever your target audience is looking for anything at any particular stage, he reaches your blog. And once he reaches your blog, then it completely depends on you, on how you structured your site to move him down the funnel and finally end up getting a transaction for him.
Yes, we'll come to that later. Any more?
Actually, just one rider on blogging. Blogging in India, if you see technology blogs, IT blogs, tech-related blogs work better than any other category. That's also because if you see all the independent bloggers, a majority of them are, geeks, techies, IT people. Not so much in the other categories. So really, if you're looking at developing a blogging channel outside of this category, you would have to be really, really careful. It's not everything will work, and just because you have a blog doesn't mean that is going to get you any more sales. And to his point, like he said, so if you have a blog, how are you then going to market it? It's better to, instead of having your own blog often, to connect with other people and get them to talk about you. It's the same principle, whether they're talking on Facebook or whether they're talking outside of Facebook. How can you get them to talk? On your review sites, for instance, Mouthshut and Consumer Complaints and all of those sites, how can you get people to say nice things, about you over there? That would be a better way to approach it.
In fact, one of the things that I can add is that I certainly know that Pinstorm is one of the firms that does this thing called an online evangelist management program, where just like you figure out journalists who will get your stories across, you figure out bloggers who get your stories across. So you look at the top 5,000, 10,000 people in India in terms of social influence, figure out who are the people with the social influence to your audience who talk about the stuff that you talk about. For example, if for a telecom company you're launching a new iPhone, there's a set of bloggers you go to. If for a bank you're launching a new gold product, you go to a different set of bloggers. If for a telecom company you're launching a new 4G service, you go to a different set of bloggers. So you go to the bloggers, treat them like journalists, and get them to write about you because each already has a reach of their own. We'll go to the next question there. There's a gentleman out here.
With every SMM agency offering the same, how do you evaluate them?
With every SMM agency offering the same. So we'll have to go to somebody who's not an SMM agent. And sadly, I think we all are. So I would take this question and say we are all completely disqualified from answering that question. Right? So what I can certainly do is, please give your email addresses so you can write to each of these guys and ask them how good they are and how bad the other three are. So I'm really sorry. I mean, I think there's absolutely no credible way to answer that question. There was number 4 there. Yeah, the gentleman there in the third.
I have a very basic question which is open to all. For a startup, what is the simplest and the most cost-effective way to get a fan following?
What is the simplest and most cost-effective way to get a fan following for a startup? So I do have a point of view, but let's start with. Yeah. Guys, there are mics. You can use those. You can use those.
So yeah, I think so. The simplest way would be to incentivize the user to share it on their own social platform. If you have bought in someone come and does a transaction at your platform, let them, give them an incentive that they should publicize or share it with other people, because that automatically will tend to get like for the product or the purchase they have done, vice versa, driving some kind of likes for your own brand or your retail store.
Anything you guys like to add?
Yeah, so if I ever start up, my strategy would be to first put money into SEM, get some sales, get some customers, get those customers onto my Facebook page, and start brand advocacy.
Anything
My
else?
money is limited. I need to look at sales.
I think if you're a startup, I'd suggest build a fantastic platform. Make your prospects a fan of your platform and not of your Facebook page.
Yeah, so as somebody who invests in startups, I have something different to say. We go with this wonderful policy called zero marketing budget with many of our companies. We were talking yesterday about the fact that, you'll never see a Redbus commercial. It's built into itself in a 1,000 crore company with zero advertising on TV and print and so on and so forth. Essentially what we say is that you, the founder, must make noise. You, the founder, must get known, right? As the first thing. Because at the very first stage, you have early adopters. The very early adopters who come will come because they like you. They want to connect with you, they trust you, and they're buying from you. And over time, as the curve goes, you'll find the late adopters coming in. But really, you, the founder, are the most important voice of the startup. And if you have nothing to say, then it's difficult for your company to say something. So the most important thing is to put your reputation on the line, start talking, make sure you get followed, you get bought because you have ultimate credibility. You're the guy with your name behind the door, right? And that's the first starting point that I'd say. The next question was here, ma'am. Can somebody get a microphone here? While we're waiting for the lady to get the microphone, can I have the next 5 questions, please? The lady, your number 6, number 7, number 8. Okay, 3. We got 3. I've got the clock here, so I'm on time. Don't worry, ma'am.
How do you manage the quality of fans? Is it just random fan acquiring, just on age, men, women?
How do you manage the quality of fans? Answers?
That's a very interesting and relevant question. The quality of fan is skewed based on the type of content you put up. Okay?
Can somebody put on the Twitter questions on this so I can see those?
If you're a fashion brand and you start talking politics and cricket, you'll end up with all kinds of people. It's very, very important to decide who's the kind of TG you want to engage with, what are their aspirations, what are their pain points, and the content that you queue should start talking to them. Okay, once the content is right, it's like putting a piece of sugar in middle somewhere. You'll get the right kind of answer if you put the right sugar. Okay, so your content has to be queued correctly to get the right kind of fan. If you're paying money to Facebook, Facebook allows you multiple options where you can actually pick and choose your fan. So just don't open the TG and say everybody above 14 is okay with me. Be very, very selective. It's all about community building. You can have 100,000 people on your page, absolutely useless from your perspective if you've got the right kind of guy. So acquiring the right fan, giving the right content, giving the right messaging is extremely critical.
So one of the things I can add is a lot of aunties in Faridabad well out of work when Facebook flushed, their fake fans. And I could see one large telecom company in India has 10 million fans. It has bought 9.4 million of those, right? And their fan following actually went down when the fake fans were removed. So you've got to be very clear that when you're buying fans, you have no idea who you're buying. So the next question was the lady in green there.
Yeah, I wanted to know what, this question is open to anybody. For a startup, what is the kind of ad budgets that one should earmark for the first year? Would there be any kind of indication that you would like to give?
As a percentage of revenue, let's make it easier. What percent of revenue should you spend on advertising? 15. 15. 15. 30. And I say 0. So that's your set of answers out there. As a startup, I believe in your first year, you should not spend anything on advertising. But of course,
how would you get your clients then?
Well, you don't need to advertise. I mean, how to get the first customer, how much money does it take to get the first customer? Maybe you need 100 visitors.
If you want to scale from 0 to 500 in a day.
So here's the thing, right? I continue to believe, foolishly perhaps, that the biggest online brands out there have built themselves on word of mouth. You never saw an ad for Facebook. You never saw an ad for Twitter. You never saw an ad for Amazon. You never saw an ad for eBay. You never saw an ad for Google, right? They've all built themselves on building extraordinarily crazy fan followings that have really built their reputation by word of mouth. So in the early stages, I'm saying there's absolutely no choice but to build your brand through word of mouth. Can you get talked about? And I can tell you, I mean, in the case of Carvalho or in the case of Redbus or in the case of My Dentist, these are companies that I have invested in. You will not really see them in mass media. You'll basically see that they built themselves by generating so much, I mean, by loving the first customer, making that first customer so delightfully happy that he speaks to 5 people. It sounds really crazy and idealistic, but believe me, it works. I put my money behind companies such as this. So I'm sorry, you've heard a multiplicity of opinions. You can take your mind. I'm going to take a question here from Twitter. So many stores sell their products only via Facebook. What's your take on this? What's the future of such businesses? Anybody? That look says that you're all going to fall and you're all going to fail. Neerav?
I think that getting too much dependent on Facebook.
You're getting too much dependent. What if Facebook becomes the next Orkut? That's the next. That's the question, right? So will this? And there was this other question saying there's so many Indians now on platforms such as Reddit and Quora, which are. When will India build its own first platform? What are your thoughts on that?
Isn't done a good job?
Isn't?
Yeah, you know, as Mouthshut is a...
Mouthshut, who else?
So besides Mouthshut, we don't see too many of these guys coming up in India at this point of time. We seem to be kind of latching on to... Yeah, probably.
But that's run out of Estonia. Consumercomplaints.in is an Estonian site, right? So somebody in Estonia has built a really good consumer platform in India. It's called consumercomplaints.in, except the domain is registered out there. So we have, after this lady, there were two more questions. There was a gentleman out there. You're holding on to the microphone since then. Mera number aayega. Aa gaya aapka number. Go ahead. Use a mic, yeah.
My question is on social engagement and monitoring.
Could you? Yeah.
So it's on social engagement and monitoring.
All right.
So I'm talking about the unstructured content, the user-generated unstructured content that is in the form of tweet or post on the Facebook or community or blog sites. How are we using it in understanding, in order to understand the customer better, to segmentize the customer, to generate the lead or generate the issue tickets, or give the relevant experience to the customer?
So this is the listening side of it. So in fact, I'll probably ask maybe the two of you, general brand chatter. What are brands learning from it? How are you measuring it? How are you learning from it? What metrics, if any, do you use? Very quickly, we have a couple of minutes left.
That's a very, very relevant question. So the place from where we come, we believe that the real ROI of social media lies in listening. For the first time in the history of Brandkind, you can actually listen almost in real time to what your consumers are talking about your brand, about your competition, about your category, what are their aspirations, what are their pain points. So it's a good idea to invest in a listening tool, something like a Radian 6 or something, which helps you mine conversations about your brand, competition, category, everything across the board. And whatever conversation you pick up, you can use it for CRM, understanding customer problems and solving them. You can also use it for generating sales opportunities. If you are in the business of selling saris, just like you are looking for customers, believe me, customers are also looking for you. And there are people putting out tweets and updates saying, I'm looking for a sari, I'm looking for a phone, I'm looking for a laptop, what can you recommend? If you can pull out these conversations using a listening tool, there you are, your sales cycle is already getting set up. And very few brands are actually investing aggressively in listening. So I think listening investment is a must for an e-commerce company.
Swapna, what do you add, if anything?
Yeah, I think additionally, how listening really helps is, to see how your customers are then reacting to you. So someone's bought something from, let's say, your website, and then they have said something unpleasant about you, maybe not to you directly, but somewhere else. The question is, have you heard it, and then what have you done about it? And you should be obviously addressing all of this. A good listening tool will at least help you track everything. Then you need to kind of have a policy on how you are going to, treat all of these complaints. The second, the other point that listening will really help on is kind of capturing trends and that kind of stuff. So you see that suddenly there's a shift happening, let's say, in the general sentiment around your sector. If you are listening and you are paying attention to your data, you are categorizing your data, etc. correctly, you then know how to kind of plan in advance and how to kind of capitalize on that trend, for instance.
So what I can add to that also personally is that this has now become a large, for big brands, it's become a big data problem. With a couple of the brands that I do know Pinstorm manages, one brand has more than 15,000 mentions a day. Right? So you're talking about managing 5 lakh mentions a month. Another one, a large financial services company, you're managing 2 lakh mentions a month. So it's not even possible to eyeball and see 15,000 mentions a day. So you've got to figure out how to present it graphically in a way that makes sense. So you're really talking about now data visualization, you're talking about big data management, you're talking about cloud. So it's suddenly become a large technology problem for large brands, and it requires almost a technology budget, not just an advertising budget to look at that. I see a red and white sign blinking out here. So So you want to talk, let's take a minute to talk about listening tools.
Yeah, the listening tool I mentioned is Radian 6. It's a part of Salesforce.com. That is the best enterprise tool in the market. Radian 6 is a listening tool.
Swapna, is there something you want to?
It helps you mine conversations. It works like Google. You can set up certain set of keywords. Based on those keywords, it will mine conversations across the entire social and digital hemisphere, from Facebook, Twitter, wherever you want, and present it to you in a tabular format. So you can actually look at those conversations, classify them, and decide where you want to engage or interact. Good things in life are paid.
Yeah. Anything you want to add? Yeah.
To your question, is that free? See, these tools are for large corporations who can afford them. If you're a startup, if you're starting off, and you want to measure the conversation, or you want to just check what are people talking about you, there are a lot of free tools available on internet, hosted applications where you can just put in your keywords and they'll tell you what is the conversation going on around you, or your brand. So yes, you have free tools, but obviously there are limitations there. If you want everything, then obviously you need to go for paid tools.
Yeah, social media, online reputation management tools. That's the keyword. So the ladies out here, which basically means we need to get off stage. So what I'd like you to do is spend 10 seconds and give this panel a huge big hand, and I hope this was useful. Thank you, guys. Thanks. What we'll do is take 1 second. Is there, you want to give your Twitter ID and email address to the gang out here?
Yeah, this is Harry Tips, HARRYTIPS on Twitter.
Use a microphone. Use a microphone.
Spondy tweets, SPONDITWEETS.
Nirav_Parekh, NEERAV_PAREKH.
IJ Sid, SID, IJ SID.
And I'm Mahesh Murthy. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you so much again to the speakers and the moderator for being on time and for running the session so efficiently. And it was incredibly interesting, as I'm sure you'll agree. So moving right along, what we have in this room